Hi, my name is Jordan Wilson. Robin Koroluk and I are here today to talk on the Chartered Financial Analyst designation, but also a bit on careers in finance in general, the need for more diversity in finance, and some of the complementary skills that are useful in acquiring if you choose a career in finance. Robin and I are both currently on the board of directors for the CFA Society of Saskatchewan, and we hope you enjoy this informative presentation. Thank you. There's a variety of pathways to have a career in finance. If you decide not to take a professional designation, there's still lots of opportunities for you. If you work for, say, a bank, a fund company, an insurance firm, there's always in-house courses that they offer to enhance your skill sets. The Canadian Securities Institute offers courses and certificate programs that also advance your career. Another option is financial planning. Certified financial planners are probably the largest group in the country, but there's also registered financial planners and personal financial planning. You can go the CPA route, become an accountant, and then move into a finance department as a controller, as a VP finance, as a chief financial officer. Or you can go the Chartered Financial Analyst route, and there's many career paths within that designation. If you're in high school or just entering university, the traditional path to a finance career would involve entering commerce or business faculty, taking economics courses, accounting courses, probably majoring in finance. But there's a variety of routes that you can actually take. When you get to university, also consider things like improving your English skills, both writing and oral communication. And look at specialty skills. For example, if you live in Silicon Valley in California, maybe high tech would be a skill that's in demand down there. If you're in Western Canada, natural resources would be a perfect complement to your hard skills. And then also things like foreign languages. They help you communicate and understand culture of people around the world that you may be dealing with. General communication skills such as Toastmasters or Dale Carnegie will also help. And general networking, building contacts now that may help you down the line in your career. Here's the Canadian Securities Institute webpage. You can see that there's a variety of certificate programs in banking, in financial planning, investment management. So within this program or this institute, you can pick up a lot of hard skills. Certified financial planning, registered financial planning, and of course, what we're going to look at today, the Chartered Financial Analyst. So, Chartered Financial Analyst. A lot of ways it's misconstrued or confused by people as to what it involves. And part of that is our fault. Chartered Financial Analyst. Now, for those of you that aren't really aware of what a financial analyst is, a financial analyst is someone that examines, collects, and interprets financial data. Basically a number cruncher. You get a pile of data, you crunch numbers all day, you arrive at your business decisions. Maybe those relate to go no-goes on a new product design, a corporate acquisition, or maybe whether just to invest in Apple over Amazon. So that number crunching is the quant side, the quantitative side. But to be a successful analyst, you have to understand the business side. And that's usually more important than the number crunching. You punch numbers into a computer, you're going to get the same result. But to take those numbers and decide whether this is a business decision you should go forward with or decline requires a lot more knowledge about the industry, about the products, all that sort of softer stuff. So that's key to become a financial analyst. CFAs are more than just financial analysts, though. There's 178,000 active CFA members in 162 markets around the world. Yes, there's financial analysts, but the top positions globally are also portfolio managers. C-suite, that's the corner suite for chief financial officers, chief executive officers, chief operating officers. Consultants, risk management. If we look at the top employers globally, we see, yes, some of the banks, but we also see PricewaterhouseCoopers and Ernst & Young, accounting firms employing CFAs. In Saskatchewan, we tend not to have a traditional investment or finance community here in this province. So what you see is you see in the top employers of CFAs, Saskatchewan Government, Sask Power, Federated Co-op. So again, CFAs are employed in more positions than just as financial analysts. Globally, we see this as well. Asset management, accounting and finance, investment banking, wealth management, risk management. These are all heavy areas that employ CFAs. If we take a half step back, we also see that many people think that a financial analyst must have a background in finance. Many do, yes, but many more CFAs actually come from other educational routes. We talked about the qualitative side of analysis, having to understand the business, the industry, the macro and microeconomics. So having an accounting, economics, law, industry background, that's a nice complement to add a CFA to. If I look at the CPAs, traditionally they're in corporate finance, chief financial officers, VP finance, controller. More and more companies are public. More and more companies issue debt, equity. Combining your CPA with a professional background in investing and finance can help fast track your career. Similarly, in law, you may want to go into mergers and acquisitions, in-house legal counsel, regulatory, estate planning. Again, having a CFA in combination with a law degree can open many doors. If we look at our current and last year's CFA Saskatchewan Board of Directors, we see huge diversity in backgrounds. We have financial planners, we have accountants, we have economists, we had a finance professor last year, we have an MBA, we have someone with a master's in cybersecurity, PhD in applied math. Our past president had a master's of fine arts, and we currently have a professional engineer on our board. So yes, some of those people have finance majors, but there's a lot of different backgrounds that are on the board of directors for the CFA Society Saskatchewan. Another common misconception is of a financial analyst sitting in a back room crunching numbers in the dark. Not that exciting. Or maybe it is. Regardless, the CFA profession has career paths for all types of people. Maybe you like to work on your own with little outside contact. You're an introvert. There's jobs for you. Maybe you like to sell products, or maybe you enjoy meeting clients on a daily basis and have something different happen every day. Maybe more an extrovert in that case. Jobs for you. In between, wealth management, legal, regulatory. Job pressure is another issue. Some people prefer the 9-to-5 stereotype job. You punch in, you work a solid day, you go home, you enjoy your life. Versus, say, someone that works in mergers and acquisitions. They might be doing relatively nothing for weeks or even a couple of months on end. And then suddenly you're involved in due diligence and you're spending the next 2 weeks working 22-hour days trying to get your work done. Not to mention the stress involved with that. A multi-million-dollar deal that your 2-week analysis decides, yes, we should buy, no, we should pass. So much different than a 9-to-5 job. Personal risk is something that's different in different CFA positions. You can work a standard corporate finance job, safe, secure. You know what your salary is, maybe you get a bonus. Versus, say, private equity. where you maybe get a salary, but you also might get bonuses based on deals. You might have the opportunity to buy into the deal. And then on the other extreme, what I would call eat what you hunt. You're making all your income off sales commissions, percentage of assets under management. So if you get results, you can do very well. If you don't get results, you might suffer. Income can be quite variable, especially compared to the corporate finance. So let's look a bit at the CFA Program Curriculum. I call it a bit of everything. And I think the emphasis here is it shows the same diversity in course load as we see the backgrounds and the career paths of people that enter the program. So the global practice analysis. The takeaways from this slide would be that the curriculum and the exams reflect the real world. What kind of training and skills do financial businesses and industries want and need from their professionals? That's the left hand, the input from practitioners. So in the 1970s, when inflation was a big issue, that would have been important to study. It would have been reflected at the time in the corporate body of knowledge. In the late 1990s, the dot-com craze would have been very topical. And subsequently, the bursting of the dot-com bubble. Today, what's hot? Cryptocurrencies, fintech, environment, social governance, ESG. The active versus passive equity investing debate. Artificial intelligence. These are the sort of things that are the hot topics right now. And those are the things that trickle down into the curriculum and the exam process. The CFA curriculum itself is interesting. And again, it goes to some of the points that I talked about before, about the progressiveness. The key takeaways on this are, first of all, look at the skill progression, the arrows on the top. In level 1 and a bit of level 2, you learn the knowledge, the comprehension. You're building the toolbox, developing skills to help you work. Then when you get into level 2, it's all about application, analysis. So in level 1, you learned how to calculate net present values, modified durations on bonds, understanding how ratios work and impact financial statements. Level 2, you start to apply those skills in your analysis. And then by level 3, it's all about evaluation. You've learned the skills in level 1, you've learned how to apply them in level 2, and level 3, it's all about bringing it all together. The other point I'd like to make on this slide is how ethics is in the bullseye of all 3 levels. Very important to the CFA profession to always act professionally and in an ethical manner, especially given the jobs that many of us are in, involving client money, portfolios, things where you have to be highly ethical. If we look at the hard skills in the curriculum, we see that progressiveness that I just touched on. In level 1, very heavy on the quants, the financial reporting, even economics. And you're learning about the different asset classes and how they work. As you enter level 2, you have that technical knowledge now. So the focus shifts to applying those tools within the asset classes. And by level 3, the emphasis is almost entirely on portfolio management and wealth planning. You can see that in the last bullet on the page. In year 1, 7% of your curriculum is portfolio management. By level 3, it's half the entire exam. You can also see the importance of ethics and professional standards being about 10 to 15% all 3 years. And in fact, what you find is that if you're on the bubble for pass or fail, they will look at your ethics results to help assess whether you should be one way or the other. So ethics, very, very important to getting through the program. Finally, it's one thing to finish your exams in, say, 2000 or 2010, and then forget everything you learned. Not to mention, the hot topics and the trends change over time. So the CFA Institute expects its members to maintain their skill sets and current knowledge. Every year, refresher readings are issued that reflect the current curriculum. Last year, we see some of the recent hot topics. Ethics, they're always updating, reflecting new laws, the new environment out there. FinTech, things like Wealth Simple have come along. That changes the way people operate and invest. Active versus passive investing is a current hot topic. As more people move to these FinTech and do-it-yourself investing, there's a question whether they should be actively investing. Machine learning, artificial intelligence, also very topical. Changing structure of the financial institutions as a result of the FinTech and the artificial intelligence and the machine learning. All those are impacting banks and financial institutions today. Those need to be considered. So you sort of see, as you progress, you still try to keep as current as possible.
Thank you, Jordan. Hello, my name's Robin Koroluk. I'm a portfolio manager and wealth advisor with Scotia Wealth Management. I obtained my CFA Charter in 2017 and graduated from the University of Saskatchewan in 2010. Today I'd like to speak with you a bit about the importance of gender diversity in finance, including why both men and women should consider a career in finance. The reason I'm speaking about this today is because women are still very underrepresented in the finance field. Let me paint a picture of what the finance industry looks like today. Women represent only 18% of the investment management professionals. However, research shows this is a field where they often excel. Although they are underrepresented, 41% of Canadian women are responsible for their family investment decisions. Women control 10 trillion of assets in 2020 of the 35 trillion total financial assets in the US. Gender diversity adds value. Companies that were more gender diverse had a 41% higher return on equity than the companies with no women in decision-making positions. So companies are starting to get it. 34% of CEOs ranked diversity as a key indicator of success when evaluating firm performance. Female leadership has grown from 15.6% in 1998 to 21.9% in 2019. Without a more deliberate effort, firms could face a talent gap. With that being said, we have seen more and more women consider careers in finance, and although we still have a long ways to go, we are moving in the right direction. While opportunities for women grow, still only 5.4% of women account for CEOs amongst the top S&P 500 firms, and the largest gender gap remains in those executive or leadership positions. As you can see on this slide, the number of CFA members whom are men largely represent the C-suite positions, whereas your female CFA members have a higher representation in careers such as analysts or relationship managers. So why is it so important to have gender diversity? One thing is the bottom line. Gender-balanced boardrooms deliver a better bottom line. Fortune 500 companies with more women on their board found that they have a higher financial performance, return on equity, return on invested capital, and return on sales. Ultimately, diversity relates to success. Since 2012, the number of companies with greater than 40% diversity has doubled. Gender balance is a risk management strategy. Women can bring different perspectives on business and risk management. Women also have certain niches. There have been mounts of research that shows having women on teams in senior positions or on company boards fosters more innovation in the workplace. Client acquisition is also a reason. You can target certain clients. Some clients require you to have a certain skill set that may be dominant to one particular gender. Sometimes women like to deal with women advisors. This is currently a target market that is underserved. However, given that women live longer than men, they may be required to make financial decisions out of necessity. I've included a chart here presenting data on who values gender diverse investment teams. As you can see here, CFA members see the value in diverse teams yielding better performance, whereas your retail and institutional investor largely believes diversity does not matter and does not impact performance. This is something we need to change. So I've given you a lot of proof and reasoning behind why gender diversity is needed in the finance industry. So why the lack of diversity? First and foremost, culture defines diversity. Culture does somewhat define the path you may take or what you may focus your efforts on based upon what the norm is and whom your role model is. No region in the world has more women in positions of power of influence in finance than Asia, approximately 50%. Europe has about 10%. My fellow board member, Jordan Wilson, can attest to the amount of women in the Bahamas, Cayman Islands, amongst the banking and trust industry. We need to continue to help shift the corporate culture in companies around the globe. Demographics also need to be considered when promoting diversity. It may simply be impossible to balance the overall gender imbalance due to other careers having a dominance of females, such as healthcare, and there ultimately being not enough women to go around to achieve parity. Hard versus soft skills is another reason. The unknown career path. There's something for everyone in finance. Most individuals will look at a finance career path as something their skills may not be suited for. However, as Jordan mentioned, there are many other roles that you can attain with the CFA designation that require a lot of communication, empathy, soft skills such as client-facing and financial planning, trust, estate planning, wealth management, as well as hard skills such as working on the technical teams and regulations, corporate, treasury, finance, mergers, acquisitions, and risk management. The CFA Charter in finance ultimately provides you with the flexibility to choose whatever career path you want. Some positions do have clear paths such as corporate finance, risk management, regulatory, whereas some jobs provide flexibility, travel, and leverage. Some positions are harder to climb the corporate ladder when flexibility is required. Therefore, women tend to leave the workforce temporarily for family raising, which could also impact the lack of diversity. Women traditionally and currently are slightly overrepresented in the CPA profession in the early years, approximately 52% females. Then in the later years, it falls as women to some extent still leave the traditional work world to have families and also shift to non-accounting roles to a greater extent than their male counterparts. Similar skill sets as the CFA candidates, but has a more defined career path, causing more women to enter the accounting profession. Lastly, unbiased practices would be a reason for the lack of diversity. So we all understand diversity is important, yet team construction is absent across all the spectrums of the investment profession. The more aware companies and leaders are about the benefits and challenges, the more we will start seeing change amongst our culture. We ultimately need more women to consider a career in finance, as the more women we have, the more role models there will be, which will improve the likelihood of seeing more females aspire to be like other women in leadership and decision-making roles. The CFA Institute is focused on improving investor outcomes by encouraging diversity in the investment management profession. On September 2nd, 2019, Margaret Franklin became the first female CEO and president of the CFA Institute. Amongst the CFA candidates, 40% of candidates are women, a steady increase year over year. As of August 2019, women taking the CFA test has doubled over the past 5 years. Relative to Saskatchewan, 24.7% level 1 writers are women, 18.2% level 2 writers are women, and 9.1% level 3 writers are women. As you can see in the chart provided, female CFA candidates increased globally from 30% to 38% from 2013 to 2018. You can see on this slide that there is a big difference between candidates and charter holders. 20% of charter holders are women. This is a difference of 20%. With many charter holders already in existence, it will take time to move the needle. We also need females to go on to complete all 3 levels, which isn't always the case. In 2019, women account for 24.5% of the Saskatchewan CFA charter holders. This leaves us for much room to grow for equality in finance and the CFA Charter. Through the CFA Institute, there is an initiative to attract more women to obtain the CFA Charter, which is also being achieved through women-specific scholarships. Therefore, if a woman decides to enter the finance industry and pursue her CFA designation, she'll be welcomed with open arms and be given every opportunity to thrive. So how should you and I promote diversity in firms? Firstly, be an advocate. The more we promote diversity and promote women in leadership roles, the more we will see change happen. We need everyone to join into making this change happen, including all men and women. It ultimately comes down to making sure the right person is being hired and promoted for their skill set rather than just being a gender or spot filler. We need to transform the culture. No more boys club. By bringing women along, we are transforming the culture. This means having more of a feminine influence in the workforce and having everyone's voice heard. Being open-minded. Being open-minded to the ideal board, director, leader, etc. has allowed companies to embrace and incorporate women into these positions where they are the right fit. And bringing value. It is not useful for firms to want women just for diversity, but because they bring value. You are the example in your organization. Demonstrate the value women bring and make it easier for others going forward. So to summarize, the message I would hope to leave you all with today is that diversity truly matters. Based on research and statistics, a company is more successful if you have a balance of men and women. However, the true meaning of diversification should be the right people with different skill sets that bring diversity to the organization, whether a man or a woman. We continue to see the lack of diversity largely due to the unknown career path involved, in addition to the demographics and overall gender imbalance of certain careers that could make it nearly impossible to achieve a balance in the finance industry. We are starting to make traction and see more females consider careers in finance. However, we have much more progress we need to make to improve the female representation in leadership roles. The CFA Institute continues to encourage and foster females in the finance industry through education to all parties involved, in addition to scholarships specific to women only. Therefore, there's really no better time for a female to enter the finance services sector and pursue the CFA designation. Jordan will now further discuss the complementary skills and the value the CFA designation brings.
Thank you very much, Robin. I'm going to turn a bit to the softer side of the CFA designation. Robin and I will get in more detail on this issue in a separate recording. We'll also discuss diversity issues that she just talked about. But for now, I'd like to talk about some complementary technical skills and some of the softer skill sets that you can add to your toolbox in order to enhance any finance career. I also want to talk a bit about what I think is the real value of the CFA designation. And no, it has absolutely nothing to do with calculating modified durations on bonds. So what sort of soft skills am I talking about here? When I talked about lawyers or accountants adding a CFA designation to their original skill sets, it added value in those areas. The same is true the opposite direction. Depending on the investment or finance field that you're working in, maybe adding financial planning skills maybe adding insurance skills, wealth management, these sort of things, tax, risk management. They can add value in your careers, but they're very specific to what you're doing or what you want to do. Industry-specific knowledge is also important. I meet many commerce students in universities, and I ask them, do you intend to stay and work in Saskatchewan? And if they say yes, the next question is, so how did you do on your geology course last semester? And usually get a look back going, what? I didn't take geology. I'm a commerce student. But if you live and work, or intend to, in Saskatchewan, you're going to come across natural resources. Maybe you work for PricewaterhouseCoopers. Your audit clients are a mining company or an oil company. Maybe you're a lawyer or a wealth manager, and your client works directly or indirectly in the natural resources industry. Maybe you want to go work for a 𝐂𝐚𝐫𝐞𝐞𝐫𝐬, Nutrien, and be physically in a company like that. So it's hard to escape natural resources if you want to have a finance career in Western Canada and specifically Saskatchewan. So understanding a bit about that when you start the career path will help you out in the long run. And it looks better on your CV than, say, a criminology course. Staff management skills, also important to develop. When you're young, you don't have much experience in things. I talk from firsthand experience. I was young, single, had trouble just maintaining the girlfriend, and I've got staff who are suffering from domestic violence. One lady's husband left her for another lady. How do you deal with that when you're in your early 20s? You don't really learn those skills in university, at least in a faculty of commerce. So those are good skills. Staff management, leadership, good skills to learn. Written and oral communication, still quite important. And I think today, for a lot of people who spend their time tweeting or shorthand emails, they've lost the ability to communicate effectively. So look at things like English courses so that you can improve your precision, your professionalism, because a lot of your work is going to be presenting, it's going to be writing reports, and you need to be able to be clear and get your point across. That's even doubly true when you're looking at a global world and maybe you're dealing with non-English speakers. I found after living in Switzerland, the two things that I picked up were I speak much slower than I did before I moved there. And second, I find that I tend not to speak in contractions. I was creating an audio course on risk management a couple of years ago. And when we're doing the course on air, my producer was saying, yeah, it's a good course, but can you not speak in like you would normally speak? It's not cannot, it's can't. Not do not, it's don't. And I said, because of living overseas and trying to be clear to people, I guess I've just forgot how to pronounce or speak in contractions. So you want to be clear, you want to be precise, and that's something that's important. Analytics, logic. Companies love people that can analyze and solve problems. So things like chess clubs or anything that can demonstrate that you have that critical thinking capacity can add value, especially in finance. Foreign languages, I'm a big advocate of. It helps you, maybe less so with the language because everyone speaks English, but understanding the culture a bit better of other people that you're dealing with. I think that's the more important. I think it improves your English as well because you have to think about what you're saying or writing and be clear. It's also fun. If you like to travel, it's always nice to be able to communicate with somebody in a language that's their native tongue. That's why I started learning Spanish, for example, I spent a lot of time in Spain. I love Spain, and it just is so much more pleasurable when you can talk to people in Spanish. You can go to museums, other activities, and understand what's going on and not feel like you're missing out on half the experience because you can't join in. The other thing I want to talk a bit about the CFA and the soft skills is basically what I think is the true value of the CFA Charter. When I talk to young people, I always ask them, if I'm interviewing you for a job, why should I hire you? And I always get I can do the job. I have the skills. I have the energy. I have the enthusiasm. Sure. But probably everyone that I interview is going to say the same thing. I find that decision-making in many areas tends to be visceral. It's from the gut, emotional. For example, why do people buy BMWs? It's much cheaper to get from A to B in a Hyundai. Why do people buy Starbucks coffee when there are better, cheaper alternatives out there, including packing your own thermos? It's about the prestige, the status. So if you can make an employer see in you that status, that prestige over other people, that will help you get the job offer. And going back to the CFA, that's kind of the importance of that. Employers on a visceral level, yeah, they want the skill sets, they want this and that. But what they really want is, can you make my life easier? If I look at you, do I see somebody that lets me go home at 5 o'clock in the evening to my wife and kids and enjoy the family time instead of fixing your mistakes? That's what I want to hire. Someone that I can share my workload with to make my own life easier. And again, that's all more on the subconscious level. How do I make your life easier? Well, I show you that I can quickly learn and apply new skills. I show you that I can act ethically and professionally, so I'm not going to cause problems for the company. There's always adversity, and you always need to persevere in companies. If I look at the CFA designation, only 1 in 5 entrants actually stick around long enough to attain their designation. There's less than 50% pass rates. Students often fail for the first time in their lives on exams. A 3-year program usually takes 4 to 5 years to get through. You show that you can display the intelligence and work ethic to succeed. Each level requires a minimum of 300 hours of study. You're competing against highly motivated peers from around the world. You have to have strong time management skills to get through. Time pressure is usually the #1 issue on exams and why people fail. So again, the CFA tells people that you have these skill sets, and in part that you will help make my life easier if I hire you. So that's another advantage of the CFA. Finally, what is your story? How can you, you're not a CFA, so how can you in an interview or discussion with somebody show them that you can successfully learn something? You can handle adversity, persevere, and prosper. You have a strong work ethic, and your time management skills are strong. Is that martial arts? For example, I'm a 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo. I'm a registered Krav Maga instructor. Those things, again, show you can learn new skills, persevere, have a work ethic. I know people that run triathlons. There's so many stories out there that you can think of and tailor to demonstrate that you possess these skills in an interview. So, something just to think about for your own. That concludes our formal presentation. We hope you enjoyed it. And I'd like to think that the key takeaways are CFA does stand for Chartered Financial Analyst, but it's much more than that. We're more than just finance majors. CFAs come from all educational backgrounds. On our board of directors in Saskatchewan, we have accountants, we have economists, we have engineers, we have cybersecurity experts, applied math, financial planners. Everything is covered. We're also much more than just financial analysts. Yes, there are some financial analysts, but top sectors include asset management, accounting and finance, investment banking, wealth management. As we'll learn later talking with Robin, neither she nor I are what we would consider financial analysts. There's positions that fit whatever interest you have and whatever skill set you bring to the table. A CFA can be a great complement to other professions. We talked earlier, it can turbocharge a career for a CPA, for a lawyer, especially if they work in treasury or corporate finance, or maybe in-house counsel, regulatory. Robin talked about the need for diversity in finance, not because we're pushing it, but because so many women today control more of the financial assets in the household. And as you saw from her stats, there is an underrepresentation in the industry. So currently, there's never been a better time to enter the industry as a female. The final point is careers for all personalities. Introverts or extroverts, you can work in that back office by yourself, or you can be out meeting clients, selling product. You can have a steady 9-to-5 job, or you can have merger and acquisition excitement. You can find jobs where there's a consistent salary, or on the other extreme, eat what you hunt. So I'd like to say today, CFA is known as financial analyst, but really, I would consider it careers for all. So I'd like to thank you for your time today. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And I'd also like to take a second to thank our corporate sponsors, PIMCO, Buchberger Berg, and Manulife. We appreciate their assistance in financing our nonprofit activities, and we hope that you will take a moment to acknowledge their sponsorship. Thank you. If you're interested in becoming a Chartered Financial Analyst, please check out the CFA Institute or the CFA Society Saskatchewan web pages for more information. Again, thank you for your time and best of success in your career choices.